what is the benefit of doing all of these experiences? Like why actually spend time
Mm.
having these experiences? Now, granted, the experiences can be fun in their own right, but like, what happens when you really give yourself to the experience?
You, I mean, simply put, you align yourself with the highest light and the highest light within you. And so you're aligning yourself with what's best for you in every moment. So that's why I return to it over and over again, because I'm constantly wanting to align myself with the light and then go out into my day. And so when you fill yourself up with these experiences, they help you make better decisions. They inform your day. Um, Things start disappearing that aren't really good for you, or illuminating what's not good for you. You really see it, you feel it, that it's not really what your soul wants. And so, yeah, it's the highest light possible. And why wouldn't you want to do that? I mean, that's how you live your best life. But it takes returning over and over again to it every day. So you come to it. I suggest everyone do it first thing in the morning, fill themselves up, and then go out into your day, and you'll be filled with this power, with this light to help you. It's like a friend to help you.
So what do the experiences feel like when you're doing them right, or how do you get
Mm.
to it? Because all I see here, if I'm a new participant or a new member, is I see all these videos that don't make any sense per se, and you got this maniac hooting and hollering
Mm.
in the videos and some music and stuff. How do you actually approach these experiences as a user or participant that works for you?
Well, for me, I approach it as a sacred experience. So when you do anything sacred, you set the space. And so you make sure that you set your space, be alone. Nobody's going to interrupt you. Turn your phone off. Well, if you're using your phone for these, don't do that, but turn off all your notifications. Make sure you're in a very safe, quiet place. Close the drapes if you need to, lock the door. And then know that you're entering into a sacred moment, and let yourself go. Like, put aside any kind of doubt, or what do we always say? Like, just make believe almost. Let yourself have the experience. Make sure you're wearing earbuds. Like, that's really important. I tell everybody, you're going to have a much better experience if you have the earbuds in, because the music and the voice really get inside you. But if it's not in your earbuds, that's not going to happen. It doesn't happen as well. And then suspend disbelief. That's what I was looking for. Suspend disbelief and just listen. Really, really listen to what's being said and what's being and the music and the voice that's coming through, and sort of allow it to affect your body. Like, that's a huge part of it. Our bodies hold so much tension and stress and trauma. And I have found that when you really let go and let this voice take over, it gets into all those different places of your body, all those dark places, and starts to shake things up and release. And you'll end up having these incredible, beautiful releases. Sometimes it's crying, sometimes it's screaming, sometimes it's just bliss. There's so many different ways, and it can really take over, but it's letting the voice sort of take over your body and just feel it and be aware of it. And when it does, those parts of the singing especially gets into those places, and it might not feel, you'll feel something that maybe you haven't felt in a long time. Don't be afraid of it. Just kind of lean into it and let it go, and just keep doing that, and it will take you to really beautiful places. Really beautiful places.
So can you describe some of the places it's taken you to?
Sure. Well, some some of them are, I've found, in the beginning especially, there was a lot of crying. There's a lot of crying and a release. So it would just come over me out of nowhere. Like something would just get rooted up or unearthed, or even like when that happens, a flash would come to me of something that happened to me when I was a child or when I was a teenager, or, you know, even an adult, and things would just come up and I would just start crying and crying and crying. And I wouldn't be afraid of it. I would just let it go and just cry and cry. And sometimes after the experience is over, I would just cry for another 20 minutes or whatever, just let it go, let it go. And then there's been times where, you know, I've been angry and had to like release some anger. And the more of those healing things that have happened, the more that I've healed different parts of myself, and the more sensations are blissful, incredibly blissful. And I'll just go to really ecstatic places where my body will have an incredible release of joy and love and ecstatic release. But it took healing a lot of different parts, and also to heal some of those deep wounds. I think it's so many of us, especially women, are taught not to feel and not to express ourselves, and especially with our bodies. And it's shameful. And as I've done this work, I've really dug into that part of myself that's felt shame. I've started to express myself more, and the sensations that have come over me have just taken my body to really ecstatic places that at first were a little bit weird. I mean, it was just like, what's going on? This is crazy. But the more that I experience it, the more it's so natural and it's so beautiful. And it's a communion with the holy light, really beautiful communion with the holy light. And it's a blessing.
What I'm hearing you say is you go through first, you have to be willing to go through the catharsis, through the healing, through the wounds, through the hurt feelings, if you will, the sadness, the what have you, and process those feelings. And so this, like a psychedelic journey, does take you through those difficult places. And if you have the courage to go through those places and process those unresolved feelings, emotions, wounds, that then the prize you get is you're clear enough to really revel in the light and have these ecstatic experiences that are just beyond the catharsis.
Yeah.
So the catharsis requires the courage, and then the ecstasy is your reward. What you win your reward for your courage.
Yeah.
If you join this today with the level of experience development that we've done now, if you were to come in today from where you were when you first started, how much do you think you would have to go through the catharsis? How soon might you expect to receive a bit of that ecstatic joy, bliss, whatever? Like, do you think you could get there in one session? Do you think it would take a couple sessions? How many?
I think it totally depends on the person and how much stuff they've got to move, I guess, or how much willingness. That's what it is. It's how much are you willing to surrender? And so how much are you willing to surrender and let go and release? And you could probably get there in a few sessions if you're willing to really let go and allow. Because one of the things I've noticed with this, there's a new one, the angel bath that we're doing, is that paying attention and like letting go and surrendering to the voice and really letting the voice take over. The more that I do that, the faster I get to those ecstatic places. And I'm noticing even today that there's moments that I maybe haven't paid attention to, that I'm like, whoa, I didn't feel that before. And so, is surrendering, because I didn't hear it before because my mind was involved, so surrendering, letting our minds go paying attention and listening to the voice sort of take over. I think you could get there in a few sessions if you really let go, but it really depends on the person and the willingness to show up.
So let's talk a little bit about the mechanics of what's going on here. What are you surrendering to? You're surrendering to this, what we'll call the light, which is this transcendent intelligence, this sort of the most high or a higher power, some sort of transcendent intelligence that can work on you. And if you're someone who's not accustomed to having a relationship with some disembodied intelligence, who are you relating to when you dream? Who are the dream figures? Are they you? Are they your deceased grandfather or mother? Are they God? Are they angels? Like, who are those dream figures? If you would argue that they're purely you, then that part of you that has the wisdom that is imparted to you during dreams is the same part of you that's waiting for your invitation to have a relationship with it. Let it take over for a moment. And that's why psychedelics can be so powerful, is because you're allowing that holy other to take over. And so what you've discovered, Michelle, is that there's a level of surrender to that holy other, to the light, to God. Doesn't matter what you call it, just matters that you call it and invite it to work with you, to heal you, to guide you, to take over, essentially.
Yeah.
And that's scary, because allowing this greater being to take over you is basically surrendering your ego. It's dissolving your ego. So how do you find that essence to surrender to? What is the, because you could say to someone, hey, surrender to this holy other, or this divine being of light, or this divine light, or God. That's such an abstract concept.
Right.
Where do you find, what are you surrendering to when you're doing this? Like, how does that work for you? How does the sound, music, voice, what have you, guide you to that surrender?
Well, for me, it's because I know that we're calling to the highest light, like that is really, I don't want to say easy for me, but it's the highest light. So it's, why wouldn't I want to surrender to this? This is going to be the best thing for me in any moment, in any day, all the time. So for me, yeah, it's like, take over, please. And so I'm constantly asking for that. So yeah, like, I don't know how to tell someone to let go, except the desire to want the best for themselves, the desire to want the highest possible outcome for themselves. When you have that desire to want to be in the light of the highest light of love, then it's easier to surrender and let go. And that's, I mean, for me, it's always been something that I've wanted my entire life. I've asked for, but I haven't found it in this way until now, through this work. This is the fastest way. If you're looking for that, transcendent, ecstatic experience, that connection with the force of love that is in all of us, you're really looking for that, this is the place to get it, because it's the fastest way I have found. Once you have that desire to surrender, to give yourself over to it, and then you play this music, this voice, and engage with it, it's not that hard to get to the highest experience. At least that hasn't been hard for me.
So talk about engaging with it, the music, the voice. Like, how does the music and voice help you engage with it?
How does it help me engage with it? It's a certain frequency and tone that connects to, for me, okay, so for me, it's all feeling, right? I feel everything. I'm an intense feeler. So this work for empaths and feelers this is what you all have been looking for. So when I listen to this, when I completely let go and engage myself with it, it takes over my body. So I feel it in all different parts of my body. So I pay attention to the different tones and frequencies and really listen to how each one affects different chakras or different parts. And it ends up being a dance. It's like a dance within my body, in my energy field, in my, space. And so that's how I engage with it. I step forward to it and I listen really, really well, and then pay attention to how it's affecting me. It's not just spectating. It's not just like going to a concert and listening. It's actually like engaging with the experience. And so as you're listening, instead of being in your mind, pay attention to what you're feeling. Start there, like really like feel, and close your eyes for sure. Definitely close your eyes and just let it take over. And it's basically where you can start.
So what are you listening to or for specifically? There's a whole soundscape happening in your ears with these, got your earbuds in, you're in a private place, you have the ability to release, and you're getting hit with a wall of sound at times. What are you listening to? Like, what are you listening for? What are you listening to?
It's all about the voice. It's all about the voice. It's such a powerful, powerful voice. And the speaking voice is really good for setting the space. But when you listen to the song, the singing, that's where the power is. That's where the light is the biggest light is in the singing, especially in shamanic or these different angel baths sound baths that we're doing. Just listen for that voice, because it's a sacred power and it will give you what you need in the moment. Whatever the listener needs in the moment, it will provide that for you if you surrender to it and let it take over.
So I'll share what I think the process is, like delivering the voice.
Okay.
It's tuning into that pinpoint most high star. And it's tuning into that and surrendering to that light of the most high and allowing the light of the most high to take over my voice. And then there's something in the frequencies of my voice that is just being played. It's being used as a carrier signal to direct your consciousness to that highest point of light. It's like delivering a phone number. And so then the voice is just, here's the phone number, here's the carrier signal, here's the way to be connected to that thing that we're all connected to anyway, but it directs your attention to that singular star up in the heavens, that highest frequency. And so then you're taking that and you're really internalizing that frequency, and through that frequency, it could be argued it's not even the voice, it's what the voice is pointing to. And it's letting you have a relationship directly with what the voice is pointing to and surrender to that most high presence of perfect love and perfect light. Right? That's
it.
Sound about right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's yeah, it's so much light. And I never thought of it that way, of like what the voice is pointing to, but it's this sort of activation that happens, that when you listen, it activates you to, or connects you to that, and then gives you what you need. And the more you do this, the quicker you get there, the more healing you're going to have. I have had so many miracles over the last year and a half, and they just keep happening faster and faster. The more that I return to it, the more I listen. And the days I take off, it's a little bit harder when I go back to connect. And so that's why it's really important to do this every day, because it's easier to connect when you are doing it every single day. And you get connected to heaven, to the highest light, and you get to take that light and create magic in your own life. So, yeah.
So it could be said that this voice that you're tuning into is like a marionette or something that's reflecting the divine as best as it can, but it can be unusual at times. It can be unexpected at times. And the way it moves and the way it dances reflects the movements of the divine. And maybe not with perfect fidelity at some times, and maybe with incredible fidelity at other times. But if you really pay attention to the way it's moving and what it's suggesting, the suggestion of the voice behind it is the full expression of the divine. And then the voice is kind of dancing around it in a way that gets you to see it. There used to be these books in the 90s where it just looked like a bunch of chaotic squiggles. And if you could adjust your eyes just the right way, all of a sudden this incredible 3D image would show up.
Yep.
And so the voice is kind of like that. It's that it's a mirage, it's a suggestion, it's a dance, it's a movement. And that movement in the voice, especially, and the unusual frequencies in the voice, overtones and undertones, all are triggering in you an activation that reminds you, aha, that's my source. That's the source of all love. That's the source of all light. That is heaven. It's just directions to heaven. Yeah. But you're getting there, and it's just guiding you. It's like, so it's kind of like following your yapping Waze or Google Maps or whatever, the giving you directions as you drive. It's just yapping away, telling you, take a right here, take the next exit, all this stuff. And you could say, is that the most beautiful voice ever giving you directions to where you want to go? Not necessarily, but is it getting you to a place you've never been before, or getting you home? Even better, does it get you home? It does.
Yes.
And so really, like, that's the ideal behind it, is it to allow it to be so free, so chaotic at times, so shamanic, as you suggested.
Yes.
That something divine can take over it and start giving you directions home. Yeah. Start showing you the way to heaven.
That's right. Well, and the surprises and the shakeups and the like you call it, it's this wild voice that happens. It's there to surprise you and shake you up and get you moving, and because that's how it works. That's how journey works, guide you. So I don't think that there's anything I think the voice is perfect as far as I'm concerned. I don't think there's anything imperfect about it. It just, the guidance and the love that it brings is just perfect. So yeah, I agree with you.
So many have called this like the voice of God, right? That's kind of the common thing that the people will just say is like, it's the voice of God. And what that really is just saying is like, that's the beacon home, and the beacon home is to heaven. And so it's the beacon back to a full communion with God. And then that communion or way home, you might have to go through some areas you didn't want to go. Maybe you need gas, so it takes you to the gas station. You got to fill up with gas. And maybe that is a proverb or a metaphor for having to do a cathartic healing. Before you're able to get home, you need to fill up your tank. You need to adjust your brakes. So there's things that you might need for your own safety or for your ability to make the journey, where the voice will guide you into these various cathartic healings, places you might not want to go.
Yeah.
But it knows that's where you need to go first to get there. And you can follow it there. And then in the same experience, the same recording of the same voice, it can take you to very different places at another time, because it's essentially a reflection of that holy signal. So maybe you could talk about doing the same exact recording,
same
exact sound in your ears, same exact pitches, intonations of the voice, but taking you to very different places.
Yeah, I've talked about this a lot with our group, that when you find an experience that triggers something in you, whatever it might be, if it triggers in you, that is an experience you want to get curious about and use as much as possible until it's not triggering anymore, until it's not giving you an experience. So I've got a few that I've used up. It's like that record that you just keep playing and playing and playing because you love it so much. And there'll be an experience that will take me through that really cathartic, oh, something needs to heal in me, crying and releasing and clearing. And then the next day, it'll be completely different, and it will be ecstatic and beautiful and full of bliss. And it changes off, it goes back and forth, with the same recording. So definitely, if you find one that's triggered something, keep coming back to it, keep using it, keep listening, and let it take you, because this is what's so beautiful about this voice of God, this voice of heaven, is it's perfect and it knows what you need in the moment that you need it. And so maybe you have these goals that you want to get to, this life you want to live, but you need to go through these certain things before you can get there. And so the voice knows that, you know what, you need to stop. You need to deal with this thing that you've buried your whole life, so it can free you and open you up to so much more. Because once you start like rooting out all this stuff, it makes space for this light to just come in and take over. And, you just become a better version of yourself, with each session, with each experience, with each healing, you become better and better and better, and happier and happier and happier. And it just takes you on a wild ride. It's incredible. So worth the time and the attention that you give it. I think it's the most important thing that you could ever do for yourself. It is a gift to give yourself. The most important gift to give yourself. You give this to yourself every day, you're going to completely transform in weeks and months.
So to add another metaphor to it, like dialing a phone number, this voice is the signal.
Yes.
And it's like if you're used to the way phones used to work, they still may work this way. The tone of every number that you dial on your phone, it has a unique tone or frequency. And if you were to take a speaker and that had those tones in it and put it up to a payphone or just a regular phone, and you play the right sequence of tones, it actually dials the phone for you. So I don't know if this still works with the new iPhones or whatever, but the old-fashioned phones, hackers could take a series of tones, take it to a payphone, and it would tell the payphone, give them infinite money and dial this long distance number, and it would just work. Wow. Just tones drive the phone. Tones also tell you who you're calling. So that special sequence of tones could get you one of billions of people on the planet. Now, you want to talk to the Most High. You want to talk to God, right? So the tones and the combination of tones and frequencies that are embedded in this voice are God's phone number. They're God's, they're the main line to the Most High. And so you're dialing direct to the Most High just using these tones. Now, what God has to say to you, or what the divine illumination has to say to you, or the pure transcendent love, doesn't matter what you call it, just matters that you call it.
Yes.
And so what you're doing is you're tuning your heart, mind, and soul into these carrier frequencies, these tones that are embedded in this voice. And that is using your consciousness and your soul to dial home, to dial God, and to get God on the line. And as you're getting God on, the carrier frequencies are keeping God on the line, but it's what God has to say to you, what the light of the Most High has to do for you, is divinely inspired, pure intelligence, pure wisdom, pure love. And it's different in every instant, in every moment, in every encounter. So all these experiences or services or recordings it's just dialing the phone number over and over and over again, keeping you on the line while the light and love of the Most High does its work on you. And that work may be catharsis and healing. That work may be pure ecstasy and joy. And what you've learned, Michelle, is to really tune into that set of tones, those frequencies, to really make sure your heart and soul are dialing the number in every instant. And you even mentioned in this that there are times where you didn't realize that there were carrier frequencies or tones being dialed in aspects of the recording, like new parts sort of surface to you, and you realize, oh, there's a clear connection by tuning into those parts. And again, I guess to reiterate what you were saying, all it is that you can use that same recording at any given time. It's like using a recording of a phone number and putting it up to the phone and dialing a phone with it to call home. You call home and you're going to get a different conversation every time. So that same recording can give you a new conversation, a new communion every time you use it to call home.
Yes, absolutely. It's always going to be different. It's always going to be different. And it's going to give you whatever you need in the moment. It's like you're that parent giving you the advice or the, what you need, whatever you need, it's there for you. I hadn't really thought of it that way. I really hadn't. And that's really good because it's true. And I think it's important for people when they're doing this to set that intention to expect that, it's not about coming in and manifesting some big dream that they have. It's about communion with the holy light, with the sacred other. And so if you just have that intention and that willingness, that desire, you're going to get the attention back, because that's your birthright. That is your right as a child of the holy light, to have that communication, to have that relationship, to have that intimacy with this light. It's not something that we just talk about. It's something that we can actually experience in a really beautiful way. And so bringing that, saying, okay, this is what I want, let's go. That's a way to set the space and invite it in. You have to invite it in. You can't, we have free will. You can't just expect, you have to invite. And once you make that invitation, and then you let yourself go and let your mind go and just sort of be in your body and just allow, you're in for it. It's incredible. It's incredible. I don't know what I would do without it. I love it so much.
So you're calling home.
Mm-hmm.
God picks up.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're on the phone, which being on the phone can be incredibly intimate.
Yeah.
Like when it's like whispering in each other's ears, when you're really on the phone. So can you describe what some of your deeper or more profound experiences are when you get God on the phone?
Well, what do I want to share? For me, it's a lot of incredible sensations. And there will be, sometimes I will hear the voice of God, like an actual, and sometimes I've heard, listen, because I'm not paying attention, like listen. And it's kind of quiet, but it's stern. But there's a lot of sensations. So it's so much light. So if you can imagine people that work with energy and light, it's like the highest energy frequency of light. And so I'll get these beautiful movements of light all the way from my toes through my body up through my head. Those are the best, when it's like all the way through. Sometimes if my mind has really been a pain in the butt for the last few days or whatever, I'll get these like where my mind just becomes light. It just becomes light. In fact, that happened a couple days ago, I was in a real heavy place and dealing with there's a lot of shifts going on in my life, and it's just been really, really heavy. And I couldn't shake it on my own. Like I tried other ways. And finally it was like, take this to prayer, like take this to this experience. And so I set that intention of connection, just like, let's heal this or deal with this because it's too heavy. And immediately everything just started to feel light. And it started with my mind, which was really interesting because I think my mind was causing all the heaviness, right? I'm thinking, overthinking. Everybody knows about that. We think way too much. And I could feel this just lightness take over. And oh my God, my whole body just started to feel light. And I could feel the heaviness lifting off. And then I realized I was smiling. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm smiling. I haven't smiled all day. That was the first time I smiled. And in that, like, it's just exactly what I needed. I was so heavy and just all this lightness happened. And I felt like I was a feather. Like my whole body just felt like it was just the lightest thing ever. Like I couldn't feel, all I could feel was light. It was incredible. It was beautiful. And it lasted for like 30 minutes in this session. And then 10 or 15 minutes after, where I was just light and all that stuff was gone. And then I went back and did it again because I got the nudge to do it one more time. And then I had visions. So sometimes you're going to get visions of things that maybe they want to show you God. I struggle with what to call it. I call it God. Other people call it the holy light, transcendence. But you'll get images sometimes, and that happens to me. And then it was like, go again. And I'm like, again, okay. And I went again. And then it was this incredible, beautiful sensation of energy and light, where everything in my body felt good. It just felt so, so good. And it just took over and released into like the really ecstatic, phenomenal place that was really the highest place I've ever gotten. And it's incredible. So I don't know if that explains, fully, but that's what I've been experiencing lately. It's just, it's an energy sensation and light. So does it make sense? You want me to go deeper?
Go ahead if you can.
When you can really surrender and let go and commune with this experience and allow the light to take over. I've kind of said before, not in this session, but in others, that it's sort of like the light is playing your body. So if you let go and allow this holy relationship to come together, it affects each different part with each breath. So as the voice is singing, you're kind of breathing with it, and you breathe in and out, and something takes over, and then things are turned on. Different chakras are turned on, different parts of your body are turned on, and pretty much soon everything is lit up, and you're getting this complete and total ecstatic power running through you. And I used to think like this peak moment is the best, but really it's the whole thing that is just so incredible, because it's this dance and this communion that you have with the Holy Spirit. It's so incredible, and it will last for a really, really long time, like over and over and over again. And it will go on for like sometimes 20, 30 minutes, where I just be blessed with this beautiful light. But how do you get there? How do people get there? How do they get there? That's the question. How did I get there? It took me by surprise the first time. I was like, what was that? And so I kept returning to it. So in one of my recordings recently, because I'm recording after all of these sessions now, I remember the first time I heard a prayer on YouTube from this voice. There was a spark of that I was like, oh, I know that. That feeling, like there was something there. And so that's what got me to keep returning. And so when you feel that spark, that flush of light, that gush of light, what was that? It's this expansiveness. follow that and keep returning to that. And you keep returning to it and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so like, that's why in these sessions, I'm sort of adding to it, right? Like I'm inviting it in, God's showing up, I'm adding to it. And it's this like feed of back and forth of light together that keeps expanding, 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 expanding. And then you get this like, there's nowhere for anything to go except for just explosion of beauty and love. And oh, so good. It's so amazing. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but keep returning over and over to it because it will gift you so much. Oh.
That's great. That's great. So what I'm hearing you say is keep going back, find the recordings that give you that little spark.
Yeah.
Find the moments with the voice that gives you that spark the most.
Yeah.
And then keep returning to those recordings to keep dialing the number.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just say that's the most important, is because the more attention that you're giving to the light, the more attention the light's going to give you. And I'm giving the light a lot of attention. Like I give it a lot of attention. And so I'm being just covered in it all the time. And if you can really just do that, just keep showing up, you'll find your way to these incredible experiences. You'll find your way through what you need right now. And then it'll take you to these experiences. So, yeah.
So you're giving God's love all your attention, but you're also giving incredible amounts of permission too. A level of permission most people aren't used to surrendering.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah. And that's true. I've even said that in that's my faith. Like, I know that what we're doing here is we're calling to the light of the Most High, the absolute Most High. There's nothing below it. It's the Most High. It's pure, beautiful light. It's what we all have inside of us. And I know that that's what we're calling to. So I feel very safe in saying, take over. And I do that a lot. I surrender and I'll say, I'm yours, you're mine. Let's commune together. Because I know that not only am I going to have these incredible experiences, which are so amazing, and I'm so grateful and feel blessed, but then I take this light and it informs my life. And so it'll challenge you too. It'll challenge the things that you've maybe always thought were the way you wanted to be, but it'll challenge you to step out of your comfort zone. I mean, me talking about this is stepping out of my comfort zone. I don't like doing this, but God is like, you need to talk about this. You need to share this with people because this is so sacred and beautiful, and everybody has the opportunity to experience this. And when you experience working with and communing with the light over and over again, you're going to live a better life and you're going to be a better person and you're going to attract better people. And then those people are going to start working with the light and then they're going to be doing a better life and attracting more people. And all of a sudden our whole entire world has changed because everybody's working with the light. And so it's really, really important to do this work. I think everyone should do it, not for just incredible, beautiful experiences with God, but also, to change the world around us. You get both. You get to have this incredible experience and then you get to go change the world. It's amazing.
So to recap this with the metaphor, you've got now access to these recordings, which we've created, which have God's phone number in them. And when you really tune in to the voice ringing out God's phone number, you'll have initially the experience of a little spark or something like, oh, this is doing something. It's dialing your heart, mind, and soul to heaven. Yeah. Like it's dialing God's phone number. So that's maybe the first experience or the first few experiences. Then you might notice that there's feelings that are coming up through calling home. Because if you can imagine being estranged from your home all your life, and you're finally realizing you can call home, a lot of hurt that you haven't processed yet might come up. A lot of feelings that you haven't processed yet might come up. And then as you're going through that, you might get the hello, and you just hang up because you're like, what the fuck? That
Yep.
really worked. Like,
Exactly. It's
you
true.
know,
You're like,
like,
I don't
I
want
just
to do that.
right. It's like
Yeah.
it's like
I'm not
being able
ready.
to call. Yeah, it's like being able to call the most powerful person on earth or whatever. It's like all of a sudden, like, no, that's really their phone number. Holy shit! Like, and you hang up because you don't know what to say, and you don't want to sound stupid or whatever.
Right.
But
Or you don't think you're
then
worthy.
you don't think you're worthy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you get up the courage to call again, and they go, hello, and you go, I don't know what to say, and maybe you don't say anything, and maybe you just freeze, but maybe you stay on the line a little bit. They're going, hello, who's this? You know, but God knows who it is. So maybe he starts talking to you and saying, hey, I've missed you. So glad you called.
Mm-hmm.
And then more emotion starts coming out because, whoa, I'm actually talking. It's you, Dad, or you,
Yeah.
Mom, or whatever. Like, it's holy shit. I didn't know I could call. And so then there's all of that going on with just that reunion. And then you hang up and you're like, did that really happen? Is that for real? And again, this is with each and every service. Is that for real? Did that really happen? You just keep calling. And the next time you call, Dad?
Mm.
And it's really Dad. It's really your Heavenly Father. It's really the source of all love in creation. It's your source. It's your creator. And you start timidly, the rekindling of that relationship, the recommunion with that lost loved one, the source of all love. And then you keep calling, and you get to have, once you kind of chill out a little bit, you might be able to have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're not just weeping at the voice of your long lost Heavenly Father, you know, or Heavenly Mother. You are able to say, oh my God, I've missed you so much. I have all these things going on. I don't know which way's up. And you start being able to process. And it's like, all right, kid, like, we'll help you out with this. You know, we're going to tweak things a little here, a little there. We're going to show you how easy it can be. We're going to fill you with this light and love. And then, like you've described, it just gets better and better. The celebration just keeps getting bigger and bigger. The voice gets more profound. At first, it was just a tinny little raspy. Maybe you could barely make out. It was a bad connection. Maybe you could just barely make it out. Maybe you get disconnected. Maybe the service isn't so good, right? But the service gets better, and that next thing you know, it's like you're opening up a whole window, a whole portal, and it goes from, you know, little staticky connection to fully embodied connection where you are in rapture, embraced by this love. And then it can go all the way and beyond to all the ecstatic experiences you're having with this presence of pure, true love, God's love, Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it.
Yep, that's it. Oh, it's so true, those calls that you make. And that's sort of the process that I think I went through all year, was having those calls. You're right. Like it was at first. And then there were moments where I was like, nope, I don't want, it's too much. I don't want any of that, because one, you're afraid maybe you're not worthy, or I don't want to God see those parts of me. God knows everything about you. Every hair in your head, every bit of you is already known and loved. Every person is loved so much. There's nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear about this. It's all incredible love. And it will take you through this journey of love and self-love, because you realize the more you do this, that not only are you loved by God, but you can love yourself. Like you can truly just love who you are, because you're amazing. And that's one of the biggest things for me that has been so empowering and beautiful, because I spent most of my life hating myself, like really, really hating myself. And I even in prayer recently was like, I'm so sorry to me. I'm so sorry. You should not have been treated this badly. You're amazing and you're beautiful. And, and that would not have happened without this communion with God to show me how loved I am and how perfect we all are. So, and the more that you do that, and the more you realize you fall in love with yourself and this relationship, you start to see that light in everybody else. And then they start to show you their light because you're seeing their light. And so it's a domino effect. The more you do this, the more you really do affect the people around you. And it's incredible. So, yeah.
So now, as a member of this program, you have access to dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of recordings dialing the number.
Yes.
And different recordings will be more or less accessible to your unique disposition. So what you want to do is dig through these recordings, give them your full attention, really try to go for it with each one that you choose, and watch for that spark or that shift of emotion, that even like that feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to cry and I don't know why. Like that trigger is an indication that that particular way of dialing the number works for you. And you want to lean into that. So if you feel triggered a little bit and you're like, I feel like there's this emotion coming up, go with it, lean into it, go further and find that. And whatever the signal is, whatever that sonic trigger that pushed you in that direction, like really listen to more of that trigger, maybe even replay that moment if it's doing it for you. And then keep going and keep revisiting it and keep exploring all the dozens or hundreds of journeys we have available to you. All of these experiences are there for you to find that perfect way of dialing the number for you. And it's the same number we're dialing every time, but sometimes we're dialing it with higher fidelity. Sometimes we're doing it more energetically, sometimes more sublimely. And whatever works for you, whatever gets you there, is what you should keep using. You can keep going back to the same experience, the same journey, the same dialing dozens or hundreds of times, like Michelle has. She's found, she'll lock onto this one's really working for me right now. And how many times will you do that?
So many.
Like, let's say in a given week, like, I don't know, this one that happened at the beginning of the month. So it's about 2 or 3 weeks into the month. How many times you revisited the angel sound bath?
Well, I have 22 recordings right in with the same one right now. Yeah. And so that's probably the last couple of weeks is 22. I do it a lot. I do it every morning. And then mostly before I go to bed at night. And then sometimes if I get called in, the more you do this work, the more you'll start to feel that the way that the holy light talks to you and communicates with you and can communicate with you all day long. And so you start to feel those nudges, those pulls, that push to be like, oh, it's time to pray, or it's time to listen, or it's time to. And so when I get that nudge, then I'll usually go back and do it. So that's why I have a lot. And it's the same one. And I've had 22 different experiences. Like if you go and listen to my recordings, then you'd see how different each one is. So yeah, and there was another. Go ahead.
You're listening to one 20-minute recording, right? Yep. It's about 20 minutes long.
Yep.
One 20-minute recording has resulted in at least 22 completely different experiences.
Yeah.
And all it's doing is just dialing the phone number for you in a really good way for you right now. Mm-hmm. And you're just letting it dial the phone number for you. And then you're off to the races having these experiences through that recording.
Yes. Same one.
All right.
Yeah.
So that's the promise and the opportunity for you is go find, we'll have a bunch of sort of the greatest hits, if you will, the ones that we feel are the easiest to access, or the ones that Michelle has had the most success with, or others have had the most success with. And those will be at the top of the pile for you, but you can dig down into the hundreds of these journeys that we've taken, and find the one that works best for you. We have a gentleman who still loves this one that was done over a year ago, that is very different than the ones that is working well for Michelle, but he loves that one. He does that one every day. So find the ones that work well for you, and then just keep playing with it, keep working it. And as Michelle said, she's doing these 2 or 3 times a day. And the benefit of doing it 2 or 3 times a day is that the first stage is always clearing the junk, always dealing with whatever wounds or hurt feelings or forgiveness work you need to do, any of the sort of stuff that kind of piles in on you during the day. It's like getting dirty. If you don't shower for a number of days, you start to get a layer on you that you got to scrub off, right? So if you go for a number of days, think about how often would you bathe or shower? How often would you go to these experiences? It's almost a corollary. How clean do you want to be? How much do you want to be able to receive that ecstatic experience that's on the other end of being totally cleared out? So often Michelle will talk about these as a clearing. And so we pick up all of this psychic baggage, all this junk, all these afflictions. You might call it darkness. You might call it, others might call it demons. There's this stuff, that the psychic junk that we pick up from others and ourselves going through our days. The first thing that's going to do for you is start clearing that stuff. Once you're cleared of that stuff, then you can have these amazing heightened ecstatic experiences that Michelle's talking about. But if you only do these experiences, say once a week, say you only give God 1 hour a week, well, every hour, every time you call home, it's going to be like, where were you? Are you okay? Like all the sort of junk that happens when you've been away for too long, and you don't really get to that ecstatic communion as easily. But if you call every day, if you go in every day, you will be cleared. The first bit of the call is just clearing you out of all the things that are afflicting you, all the burdens, lifting all those burdens from you. And then once those are lifted, then the incredible joy and ecstasy is available to you. And as Michelle has discovered, she does this once or twice a day. She's able to keep going straight to just that ecstatic bliss, as opposed to having too much to clear out every day, because the amount that needs to get cleared out is much more manageable if you're doing this daily.
Yeah.
So that again is an encouragement to you to find the recordings, find the experiences, find the journeys that work best for you, and do them every day. And if you get bored with one, move to another, and if one's really working for you, feel free to stick to it, like Michelle has done 22 times in a week or so. It's like, that's fine. Yeah. It's like, it's all it is just using the phone, dialing that number, and getting that divine download that you get every time you access that particular, every time you call home, call heaven, it's right there waiting for you, clears you out, sets you right, and then celebrates with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that exact example happened to me this weekend, because I didn't pray for 3 days. I was with my kids and I had a bunch of stuff going on, and there was a lot of drama, and it was just frustrating. And when I finally returned, I had to go through 3 different times before I could get to that ecstatic communion place. And it was like, even after the second time, I felt pretty good. I was like, fine. And they were like, again, it's like, really? Okay. And then there was this really beautiful communion. And then the next day was no problem, right to it. So it really, and that was just 3 days off of not praying at all. It took that long to get back into it. So yeah, the return over and over again is really important. So yeah, it's a great way to talk about it. So yeah.
And just to translate for any of those who are hearing Michelle say prayer, it's like, what is calling God? What is calling heaven? It's prayer, right? But it's very different than the kind of prayer that we've all been taught about. It's not reciting old poems, hoping for some sort of magic genie to give you stuff. It's actually calling home. It's actually communion with the divine. It's divine inspiration. It's divine downloads. It's divine communion. So that's your opportunity. And the more you do it, the more your life is filled with light, love, miracles, wisdom, divine inspiration, genius, solving all of your problems, turning your life into a wonderful journey of grace and discovery and adventure, and really answering your heroic calling in this life. Anything else, Michelle?
No, that's good.
All right.
That's
Well,
good.
have at it. Go find that that recording or experience or journey that works best for you. We've got a bunch of them. Just dig through all the different audios and videos and
Mhm.
find what works best for you, and then just keep at it. It'll get you there.
Yeah. Amen.
All right. Amen.